So I have this pair of pants and there's 4 holes, and I'm going to teach you some different ways to mend the holes. Now, these 3 are kind of there for the design. It was made to, this is not a common place to get holes. So these were put here just for looks, while this one, it is at the knee, which means this is often where people get holes, is at the knee, where your knee rubs and pops it out. So this one will need to be really strong because it's going to have a lot of stress on it, while these ones, they will need to be strong, but not quite as strong as this one. So for this one, I'm going to do a really strong one, and it's going to look kind of like it is almost, I'm going to make it as invisible as possible. So what you're going to need is a seam ripper. You're going to need fabric scissors and some fabric that you can use to put in that hole. This is just a non-stretch denim I have, and the color is pretty close. You want it to be as close as possible. You don't have to use denim, you can use other fabrics. Now, the other thing you'll need is thread. And these are just some random colors I brought over to see if they match. But the tricky thing about mending is that if you want it to be invisible, you have to have that fabric or this thread match as closely as possible. So what I like to do is I grab a couple of colors. So if I'm going to be working on this, what I do is I take my thread and I'm going to lay it out where I'm mending, like this. And I'm trying to find the color that matches best. And I got a bunch of random colors so that you can see what they will all look like. Now what you do is you are going to close your eyes a little bit so you're looking through your eyelashes, and which of the threads kind of disappear when you do that. So this one for sure stands out, so I'm not going to do this one. This one still stands out. Let's put this over here. So the black one stands out, and I actually think this navy one blends the best. I think this other navy one is a little too shiny, and that is how I find the right color of thread. You can take the pair of pants to the store and kind of hold, you can't take the string out at the store, but you can hold it up close like this. I have found that with jeans, almost always you can go into the grays more than into the blues. Now, the first thing you need to do, you cannot fit this small of a leg into your sewing machine. You are going to need to open the side seam to be able to access this. Now, there's some top stitching up here. You don't want to go into the top stitching. You want to stay closer to the hole where there isn't top stitching. You can't do this side because there's top stitching. You have to do the side where there's no top stitching. There's a lot of extra threads in there, but that's okay. That is opened up. You can see here is the hole. You can get to it. You can see it from the inside. So what you do is you take your strong fabric like canvas or denim, and you are going to cut a piece that is, about an inch wider. If it's really worn out, you might even need to go bigger. If the knee section is like this and this is all worn out, then you should go as big as until you get to, where it's less worn out. So it could be up to that size if you need it to be. So this is, I think, tall enough and wide enough. I am just going to round the corners. So this is the fabric that is going to go in here, and it's going to have the dark side out so that that can be seen. So the first thing you need to do with this fabric is you need to finish the edge. You can either zigzag or serge, whatever you have works just great. This is some double-sided adhesive. It doesn't really matter what kind you use as long as it's double-sided and it has the paper backing to work with. So I'm going to cut a piece that is this size. That is about the right size. It doesn't actually have to be perfect, just enough to make it work. If this is really open, you might want to cut the inside away so that you don't have that adhesive, you know, right there that's going to come through the hole. I am going to leave the adhesive because I want to keep these threads here and try to keep them in place. And I want to put it on the dark side because you want the dark side to show from the outside. So this is fused and I'm letting it cool off. And there is that adhesive there. It's still soft. It doesn't get too stiff, but it will make it easier to apply the patch. So here's the leg, and I'm going to put this patch right in here like this. I'm going to make sure that it's distributed across. And I'm going to fuse this in place. So you can see the thread is right there in place. It's kind of had some stuff fused to it. And I could pull this off if I wanted to. And so I'm going to add just a couple of pins to make sure that it doesn't get pulled off. So what you're going to do is you are going to sew a perimeter stitch around the outside of the patch, and you need to make sure that your thread is the same color on the top and the bottom so that you're using the same color for the perimeter and for the mending. So here I am doing the perimeter stitch. I'm using my navy thread that I found matched the best, and I'm sewing 1/8 from the edge all the way around, and this helps the patch attach to the strong parts of the jeans, you know, higher and lower than where the hole is. Make sure you back stitch at the beginning. When you look at the jeans, you can see that there are twill lines that are kind of diagonal, and those are the lines that we are going to follow. We're not going to follow the grain line or the cross grain. And basically what I do is I'm angled with that twill line, and I am sewing forward and then backward, so I keep my finger right there at the back stitch button, and I'm just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, all the way across that hole. And sometimes I like to do kind of a sparse stitch first while I go across where there's a lot of space in between the stitches, and that's to really kind of get all of the fabric and threads in the right place. And then I go back through and I slowly add thread lines in between each one that I've already done, and that kind of helps fill it in. If you don't want any of that white to show, I would trim it off first and then do very thick lines, or just fill it in a lot, and that way that you won't see it as much. You can see with mine that I'm filling in between all of those thread lines to make it nice and filled in, and you see the white less than you did before, but you're still going to see some of that white unless you trim it off. Once all the mending is done, then you sew up the side seam and do your best to put it back in the right place and sew on the same line that was sewn before. And then after you sew it all together, you need to either zigzag or serge the ends so that the edges so that they don't fray. Here you can see that I have serged the sides, and now I can turn it right side out to see what that mending will look like on the inside. And now you see a strong knee that's filled in, and the stitching line blends in pretty well. Thank you so much for watching my video. I can't wait to see all of the holes that you mend in your jeans. Please like and follow my channel.